Two men journey to the bars and restaurants of Scandinavia to find amazing beers, always with the same question.
Hey, what's on tap?
It's time to find out.
What's on Tap podcast, and I am your host, Stefan.
I'm your host, Martin.
And
we have a heavy episode.
We do. Things are going to get real heavy on this episode because we've got two real heavy hitter stouts. First is a collaboration beer between with the brewery, and the other one's from a new brewery we've never had before called.
What are they called?
Fair State Brewing Cooperative, and it's called
Heckin Chonkers.
Heckin Chonkers. That's an awesome name.
Should we start with that? No.
It doesn't matter. We can start with whichever. Both of these are really, really big beers. So
let's start with the brewery beer. So,
all right, the brewery one
was
is...
it collaboration with Moksa and...
It's called Cocompany. It's Cocompany.
Yes.
So so it's Bruery, Moksa, and Mikerphone. Mikerphone.
Yes. Yeah. Mikerphone rocks.
Yes. So that's why I was like, oh wow, I love all of those words. Those are all three great breweries that are doing a beer together. And I'm like, that's probably going to be horrible.
Oh, no.
so many times I've had like these like collaborations I've been so excited about with all these amazing breweries, and you get it, you're kind of like, this was so disappointing because they always go against style.
Yeah, usually.
And that's where you get like, oh well, why do I want like these two breweries that are known for amazing sours to do a Hefeweizen?
Yeah.
I don't. Nobody wants that. But instead, what they've done is all three of these breweries are known for stouts. And so we have a coconut, vanilla bean, milk sugar, and oak milk stout, imperial stout, coming in at 11.3% ABV.
It smells. It doesn't smell that much coconut, but there's definitely milk sugar and a little bit of vanilla beans in the aroma.
Do brewery beers normally have a story associated with them?
I'm not sure.
Because this one has one. It says, who said Three's a Crowd? This triple collaboration was conceived on a live stream in April of 2020 with our friends from Mikerphone, Moksa, and the fans tuning in. A seemingly mutual adoration for coconut cream pie was recognized, and Three's Cocompany was born. This creamy and full-bodied imperial stout was treated with coconut, vanilla, and milk sugar. All right.
So Moksa and Mikerphone didn't touch this beer. They were on a...
It was all done through a webcam. Of course not. They didn't travel there. Although I think they're all based in the same part of California. I know Moksa's in San Diego, and the brewery's in Placentia.
Are you sure Moksa is in...
I'm pretty sure they're in San Diego. But you can correct me on that one. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're...
How would we ever find out? We need
There's
to
no
find
way to
a
know.
dictionary.
It's impossible to...
We get not a dictionary, encyclopedia.
Encyclopedia or a map would probably be...
Rockland, California. Wow. I would never have guessed.
What? I know Moksa was California. I know they're from Southern California.
I'm thinking of something else.
Okay. And then Mikerphone, I don't know where they're from. But I would also assume California.
Mikerphone is from Elk Grove, Illinois.
Oh, Illinois. Okay. So they're not from California. So
let's try it.
All right.
I've only smelled it.
Let's do this.
Cheers.
Oh, and the nose is super like chocolate, coconut, very heavy coconut.
It's good. It's rich.
There's definitely a richness there.
Good mouthfeel. Lot of chocolate. Just a tiny bit of coconut. No, it's rising.
The coconut on the front end was much like the smell was like going to be like coconut bomb, but the aftertaste is much more milk sugar, vanilla, almost like a milk stout, like an imperial milk stout kind of going on here. The coconut it's there, but it doesn't really present itself in the way I was expecting it to be, like a really upfront coconutty beer.
This is actually really good. It's quite low in booziness. It fills the mouth, but it doesn't coat it with alcohol vapors afterwards. This is surprisingly drinkable.
Yeah, I would say for 11.3%, you could drink this pretty fast and not realize how hard you're hitting the booze level here, because it is so smooth and it's so sweet. And I would say that would be my one complaint, is it's so sweet that right, my mouth and my tongue and my lips, it just feels sticky. You know, it's so it's not that like, it's not too much yet, but it's right on the edge of being kind of overwhelming.
This is really good.
Yeah.
The aftertaste that does linger, it's quite pleasant. It's like this soothing, chocolatey.
A little bit of like burnt sugar, roasted notes.
Yeah, a little bit, which is nice in this case.
Faint coconut.
Yeah.
I would say that's my real drawback on this, is I need more coconut.
Yeah, I would want more coconut as well. So it's already at a really strong 425, but I think I want to bump it up.
No, I think if there was more coconut, this would be a strong 4.5, 4.75. But because it's kind of missing that real coconutiness in the mouth and the aftertaste, I kind of have to take it down just a little bit. But overall, I'm super glad that I got to try this.
Yeah.
So I am going to go a light 4.25.
Yep, and I can't decide.
But
I'm somewhere around there. Strong 4.25.
Okay.
I'll probably land there, but I want to bump it up.
Like I said, if it had more coconut, this would definitely be... This could have been a 5, honestly. It's so good. But it's just missing that one essential element that they're promoting on the can in many different ways, as a coconut cream pie, calling it Cocompany, company or whatever, and then talking, and then having the coconut as the first adjunct in the list. It's all saying coconut and vanilla, and I'm just getting vanilla and sweet and roasted notes.
Definitely.
All right.
I'm kind of curious about the next beer.
Me too.
The Heckin Chonkers.
So I love the can.
That's a meme, right? A Heckin Chonker. It's like a big cat.
Yes.
It's like a bigger meme where the cats are getting fatter and the text is getting more.
Yeah.
After Heckin Chonker, the cat is like called, "Oh Lord, here he comes."
Yeah. So it's like it's a really fat cat.
Yeah, which is not good. You shouldn't overfeed them.
Yeah.
It doesn't do it.
It's like a morbidly obese cat.
Yeah, it's
basically.
not
a Heckin
good.
Chonker.
But it's cute.
I don't know where they're based out of.
Oh well, I'll check.
It'd be interesting to know. What does it say? Fair State Brewing Company Cooperative.
Minneapolis.
All right.
Minnesota.
We've had a lot of good beers out of the Minnesota region with, I think, Old Nation's from there.
Oh.
And they do.
I don't have no idea.
Old Nation?
Old Nation, yeah. I heard Almation.
Whoa,
like a Dalmatian?
Like a Dalmatian, exactly.
So on the internet, it says that this beer is a bourbon barrel-aged pastry stout with vanilla.
That's what it says on the can.
Sweet.
And it comes in at 10.5% ABV. On the nose, I get bourbon barrel-aged stout.
Yes. But it's more towards wood than it is towards bourbon.
Yeah. It's the wood. It's almost like they put bourbon barrel cubes in, or spirals, kind of.
That's not necessarily always the case. Some beers with spirals or cubes or whatever can have a lot of bourbon flavor as well.
Yeah.
What I think I mean is that this is probably like the third time this bourbon barrel has been filled with beer.
Ah, okay. So you're saying it's been it's a reuse and it's really tired at that point.
But any such barrel would still have a lot of wood flavor, but the fresh bourbon notes would be lost. But that's just from smelling it.
Well, it could be where they don't, because usually when you get a bourbon barrel aged, it's usually somewhat descriptive. Like, we used Heaven Hill, or we used Bullet, or whatever Bullet. They say what. It's probably more if it's a first use barrel. And by the time you get to the third use, it's kind of like, you know what? Don't worry about it. It's bourbon barrel aged.
Exactly. or if they're not really proud of the particular barrel, they'll just say bourbon barrel.
Yeah.
Don't
worry about it.
Or they used multiple barrels for one beer and they differ. Then they would also go like...
And you can also get a lot of infection doing that as well.
I don't mean that they swap. I mean that they make a big batch of stout and then they age it on 3 separate barrels.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Yeah. But by doing that, you have a lot more, I think, issues with...
a third of your production could be bad.
Exactly.
But right. You'd taste one of each afterwards.
Cheers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's serviceable. It's not bad. This is one of those where it's like the bourbon barrel aging isn't huge on it. It's okay.
To be fair, now that in the flavor, I'm getting way more bourbon barrel. Mm-hmm. I'm getting more of a Founders flavor. Not their most heavily bourbon barrel aged beers, but it's getting towards that. It's like thick toffee,
kind of fudginess to it.
Fudge.
Yeah. You get a little bit of a raisiny kind of aftertaste to it.
The flavor is much better than the aroma.
Yeah. The aroma is not.
It's much.
Not anything to write home about. It's kind of like meh.
Sometimes when we drink oak-aged beers from Swedish producers, all manner of shortcuts have been taken, and they smell quite bad. The aroma on this one is going towards that area where it's like, oh, is this just random wood pieces that you threw together?
Yeah.
But the flavor turns it around.
Yeah,
and saves it actually.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good. It's like when you say pastry stout with vanilla, I'm expecting it to be a bit more because of the connotation of.
They shouldn't call it pastry.
No. If they just said a bourbon barrel aged stout with vanilla, great. That is everything. It's exactly what this is.
I've decided that's now what I'm going to refer to it as. Yeah. Because it is not a pastry stout. It's much better as a bourbon barrel aged imperial stout.
Yeah,
with vanilla.
It's quite a nice one. It's not memorable. It's not something I'm going to be like, oh, I need to have. Remember that time we had the Heckin Chonker? That was like, whoa, that was really amazing. But having said that, it's still pretty good.
Yeah,
it's still a very nice beer.
But there's so many bourbon barrel aged imperial stouts that go into this area. I'm going to give this a 4.25 as well.
Yeah,
and there are so many bourbon barrel aged imperial stouts there.
I'm gonna give it a 4, simply because it is good. It's not a 375. It's not a bad beer, but it's kind of forgettable. Mm-hmm. I don't. I'll remember the can more than I'll remember the beer. And the can would make me buy the beer again because I love it so much.
It is super cute.
It is. But yeah, overall, I think it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a 4.
That's the problem with certain beers. Like they have a very specific taste profile. Mm-hmm. They taste one thing. This one tastes. Not exactly, but it tastes like other bourbon barrel aged imperial stouts that are well made.
Yeah,
and then you kind of run out of adjectives.
Right.
There's no pineapple flavor in this, and there's not supposed to be.
It's not overly vanilla. So if they go with pastry stout with vanilla, I'm thinking super vanilla flavors.
Yes,
here, with a bourbon barrel aging, which accentuates the vanilla and brings it out, and makes it even more prominent. It's not that. It's not that beer. But it's still really good, and it's still very drinkable, and it's still something that, again, coming in at, what was it, 10.5, you don't really feel the alcohol burn. It's very smooth, it's very easy to drink, but it's also very forgettable.
Yes. I would argue that not all beers need to have a lot of adjectives to be added to them.
I agree. I think usually fewer adjectives, better.
No, but I mean now when we are describing it, not necessarily on the can.
I think on the can, in particular, the fewer adjectives are better. Like, tell me what the brewing process is. I can respect that. If you tell me that there's, like, coconut and vanilla and it's a pastry stout and whatever, and then you're setting my expectations. And then when your beer doesn't deliver on those expectations, it's like, well, this is disappointing. And it just takes down the quality of the beer because you're expecting something, and then when you get it and you don't get that, then you're always like, oh, right now I have to readjust my expectations, and that's very difficult for people to do in a short period of time. It's kind of like when like there's certain beers that you drink and you're kind of like, this isn't a very good beer, but then you drink it like 3 or 4 more times and you're kind of like, you know what, I kind of love this beer.
But I totally agree with you on that. Like this, it's not false advertising. It's kind of miscategorized stuff.
Yeah.
Where some imperial red ales would be better branded as barley wines.
Yeah.
Just because they kind of go into this murky territory. But that's still not the argument I'm trying to make. I'm trying to make the argument that you don't need to be complex to be amazing. No. Some beers are super complex and we can find 20 different flavors. Ooh, there's a little bit of Tahitian vanilla beans. Who knows? Whatever. But there are several beers that are just, wow, this is really good and I have nothing more to say about it.
All right. So there's, to give you an instance, so one of the beers I always buy every year, it's an annual release, as far as I can remember, is Eternal Darkness by Beer Bibliothèque.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It is, honestly, it's just a really solid stout. It's a very classic stout.
But it's very one note.
Stout. It's extremely one note.
Yeah, yes.
It's extremely one. It is just roasted malts, and it's very easy to drink. It's got a high ABV, so you don't need a lot of them. And every year it comes out, and it's always an excellent beer. And I just enjoy the hell out of it.
Yes.
I have discovered that if you age it for, like, say, 3 years or so,
it turns into something else.
It gets a really smoky flavor to it. And the reason I mentioned this is we did this back in many years ago with Matthias, where I had 2 versions of the Eternal Darkness. One was in the bottle. Last time we did it in the bottle, and then a brand new one. And there was a 2-year age difference between the two. And the Eternal Darkness in the bottle became like a peaked smoked beer. It was amazing, completely different beer.
Pretty cool.
So I've been saving a few cans and just kind of seeing that, okay, now that it's in the can, will it age out in the same way? And the answer is, after about 2 years, it kind of starts to get there. Because I had one last weekend, and it was definitely getting some of those more roasted, smoked kind of notes to it, which is really interesting in that it developed this extra character to it. But I don't think it's developing in the same way that it did when it was in the bottle.
That's a shame.
Well, it's simply because it's more airtight. I think that's one of the reasons why. Because once you put something in a can, I mean, it's hermetically sealed and there's nothing getting in there. If you keep it in a constant temperature state and you treat it well, it's not going to change.
A good bottle cap doesn't let in any oxygen.
Well, but there's also light, and then there's, I mean, even if you have a brown bottle, there's still other elements that can get in to affect the beer in a different way, whereas you're not getting that same kind of aging process with a can.
No, that's completely true.
Yeah.
And then it also depends on, I mean, some cans really are filled to the brim, and there you wouldn't even have any oxygen.
Yeah.
But it's very seldom that a bottle is max filled.
Oh, no, there's always a gap at the top. So
I've seen max filled bottles, but it's rare.
Yeah. It doesn't.
It's usually production fault.
There's a reason why it's not max filled, because you have to have expanding gases and breakage and things like that. So, but yeah, so the can is a slightly different aging environment, and I think it holds the flavors and everything a bit longer than when you're having bottle.
So for pastry stouts it's better, but for certain other stouts it might actually be bad.
It could be. I mean, it just changes the way that the beer's aged. So maybe it gives them a longer shelf life because less oxygenation, less exposure to light and elements. And, if you keep it in a fairly temperature neutral environment, it's going to stay kind of the same beer for a longer period of time. So that's 20 minutes. Let's wrap this up. You can find us online at what'sontappodcast.com, Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, YouTube, Google. Actually, we're on Google, whatever it's called, their podcast app, and
Justin Timberlake's leaked iCloud account.
Yes, although we don't talk about Justin Timberlake, he's been canceled, don't you know?
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Oh, because of the Britney Spears
because of the Britney Spears thing. How dare you, sir? How dare you sully the show with his
I was actually
name.
wondering why his name was the first to pop into my brain when I thought celebrity, but I did watch the Britney Spears documentary, #Free Britney, by the way. After watching that documentary, I am 100% on board with Free Britney movement.
Well, I'm glad that you support a woman being able to be in control of her own her own finances.
I didn't know how bad it was.
Bad.
I didn't know.
All right, this is another topic for another episode. We'll get into the Britney Spears dilemmas in another episode. So until next time,
keep drinking it, dumbbells.
This podcast is part of the Pod Syndicate family. For more criminally compelling shows, articles, and conversations, head to wearepodsyndicate.com.